80s were without doubt an incredible era for metal music. Slayer released Rain in Blood, Megadeth launched Peace Sells, and bands such as Anthrax, Overkill and Exodus added even more to the mix. 3 records really stood out though: Kill 'Em All, Ride the Lightning and Master of Puppets, a trilogy of thrash albums that are pretty much loved by every single metalhead on the planet. We know Motorhead is the reason Lars wanted to be a rock star, and Lemmy had a huge impact on James Hetfield's voice. So it was a surprise to most fans when the late 90s saw Metallica go from thrash kings to some weird hard rock band with Load and Reload.
Just like the curse, just like the stray.
Although that transition had already begun with the Black Album, no one could predict how far it would go. But I think we can all agree it went a bit too far. Saint Anger had its issues, and Death Magnetic, along with Hardwired, received mixed reviews and feedback. Personally, I was a big fan of both of those records, but neither of them were fully thrash. And we don't really need to go completely into the Megadeth musical revenge that Dave Mustaine exacted after being booted from Metallica. The argument for years had been who was better, Metallica or Megadeth, and from the 90s onwards, Megadeth certainly took that crown when comparing the two bands, album for album. Regardless of how much you hated Risk, they were still the better band. Metallica just kind of lost their way, musically and as musicians to an extent. It all seemed to fall apart after the tragic death of Cliff Burton in 1986. He was, after all, an incredible driving force when it came to passion and inspiration for the rest of the guys. So it's understandable that his passing would have a drastic impact on Metallica in all aspects of their being. As fans, we couldn't really do anything but watch one of our favourite bands descend into this strange musical exploration. And of course, there's nothing wrong with bands trying out a new direction, but for most of us, with Metallica, it just didn't quite sit right. Sometimes a change works really well for a band, such as Pantera ditching their glam metal phase, other times it doesn't. Take Motorhead for example. They released 6 incredible records from 1977 to 1982 that included Overkill, Bomber, and of course Ace of Spades. But then in 1983, they released another Perfect Day, a record that almost every single Motorhead fan still hates to this day. Luckily, that direction didn't last long, but it could have easily ruined Motorhead's career and legacy if it had continued. Metallica's legacy had started to feel somewhat tarnished by some of their latter albums, and when Megadeth released their latest record, The Sick, The Dying and The Dead, I'd pretty much completely given up hope on Metallica ever releasing another decent record ever again. Until today. Lux Æterna is the latest single from the Metallica camp, and if you're wondering, Lux Æterna is Latin for eternal light, an interesting choice of title for sure, which is taken from a new LP called 72 Seasons, set for release on Friday, April the 14th, 2023. This will also signal Metallica's 12th studio album. So what does it mean for Metallica's legacy? Well, potentially we're about to see Metallica return to their true thrash and metal roots, and I think I speak for everyone in the room when I say that would be fucking epic. Lux Æterna is certainly an angry song. It's fast, it's furious, and it features some brutally classic thrash lead from Kirk. James Hetfield seems adequately pissed, the number one ingredient for thrash, and Lars' snare doesn't sound like a trash can, which is always a bonus. If the rest of the new record is anything close to Lux Æterna, then I think we're all in for a treat, and I for one am not only genuinely excited to hear it, but super stoked for Metallica. Makes you wonder what type of albums they would have released if they didn't push towards hard rock in the 90s. If you want to pre-order 72 Seasons on special edition vinyl, I've included a link to Metallica's store in the description. If you haven't heard the song, Go and have a listen. Welcome back, Metallica.